The 5 tattoo variables are my system that I use, that I've kind of developed in order to understand the system of tattooing and the things that we need to pay attention to. Variables, obviously the things that vary and the things that change. And as long as these things vary and they're going to change, they have the potential to get out of our control if we don't understand how to control them and the way that they're changing. So the things that are going to change are the needles, the types of needles and what we do with our needle, our voltage, the stroke of the machine. The stroke and the throw is the same thing. Maybe you've heard the throw. The hand speed that we're going to use when we're tattooing, and the stretch of the skin. How much do we need to stretch the skin? What body part are we working on? So like I said, this applies to all styles. I've worked around fine line artists, I've done fine line tattoos, and I've done bold style tattoos and worked around people that use all sorts of bold needles. As I said, this is going to apply to all styles. This system is about how to adapt regardless of what style you're using, regardless of what needles you're using. When it comes to the needle, you need to think about what is the gauge of the needle. If you don't know what the gauge of the needle is, this is exactly why you need things like the online course to be able to learn in depth. The gauge of the needle is the thickness of each individual needle. The thickness of each individual needle is going to drastically change the texture of the tattoo. What's the taper of the needle? If you're doing bold traditional work, you need to understand what taper of the needle to use in order to get the best results and quality out of your work. How far do you want to hang the needle? How comfortable are you with your hang? You don't want to ride the tube and you don't want to hang it out too far. So what is a good balance? How much depth or pressure are you going to use? What style are you trying to achieve? If you know that you want a particular style, you need to understand what needle is going to help give you the best results. What voltage shall I use? Well, what hand speed do you feel comfortable with? What style are you going to be doing? What needle size are you using to achieve that style? What area of skin are you going to be working on? Are you working over a stretchy bit of skin? Are you working over bone? So you need to be really delicate and you might think about turning your voltage down. The type of machine that you're using matters. I've used Bishop machines that are really soft and I can run them at a particular voltage and throw. And if I use that same voltage and throw on another machine, it's going to be way too hard because the Bishop is a lot softer. So understanding your machine and the traits of your machine is also going to help. Your stroke. Turning up your stroke means that you've got a bigger punch. The stroke is the distance that your needle is moving up and down. So a big punch is obviously going to deliver a different experience and different results and textures to a lower stroke that is going to hit the skin more gently. What needle size are you using? Are you using a fine needle size where you need to work quite delicately? Are you using a bold needle? What's your machine? Is it soft? Is it hard hitting? What style are you doing? Are you working delicately, fine line? Is it a bold tattoo? Thinking about our hand speed. What's comfortable to you? Are you someone that likes to work really slow because you like to work methodically and accurate? Or are you someone that likes to work quick because that's how you draw and that's what gets you good results? Sometimes some of you are working quick because you feel comfortable. Maybe you're working too quick and naturally you do need to have a slightly slower hand speed just to allow your pencil or your machine to do the work on paper or skin that it needs to. Again, what style are you doing? If I'm doing a stipple style of shading and I want loads of space in between my needles, I'm going to work really quick. If I want really smooth, saturated shading, I'm going to work with a slower hand speed so that I can give the needle time to penetrate the skin and put ink into the skin to smooth it out. I don't want loads of space between my needle marks. Again, going back to the area of skin, when figuring out your hand speed, you need to figure out the layer of skin and what process that skin needs to be tattooed efficiently without doing excess damage. And then finally, stretching the skin. How much do we need to stretch the skin? Do I even need to stretch it at all? So when it comes to, let's say, the shin, if we're tattooing the design straight over the shin, we understand that it's very thin skin. There's no muscle, there's no tissue underneath there, creating a cushioned experience as we tattoo. We're going to feel that the skin is very fragile because there's bone underneath. And so if it's tight skin with bone underneath, if we try stretching that more, once we tattoo it, we're just doing too much damage and the potential for damage and blowout is just too high. You need to think about the style. Again, is this a area of skin that is really stretchy? What do I want to achieve? Do I want stippled effect? Do I want like a whip shading effect? Or do I want something really smooth? So understanding all of these different things is going to help you understand how to control the skin. Is it near a joint? You know, if I'm tattooing near an elbow, a neck, an armpit, all of these different areas of skin are a lot looser to be able to move as the body stretches. You'll notice that the skin in the middle of my forearm isn't anywhere near as stretchy as what it is around the armpits. And understanding those different areas of skin and understand how to stabilize them so that we can tattoo it efficiently and professionally. These are all things that take time and awareness to control. These are areas of skin that vary in results and the way that they work. And so as long as they vary, they have to change within our control. All of these things are going to change, but they need to change in our control. So as you move around the different body parts, if you're doing a sleeve, you'll know that once you're working on over this bit of bone at the bottom, it's a completely different sensation to when you're working on the top of the forearm. Let's go through a few examples so that we can be a little bit more specific. Let's say we're doing a fine line flower on the foot, a 10 gauge 3-round liner on the foot. So 10 gauge 3-round liner, fine needles, 3-round liner is a small configuration, so it's going to penetrate the skin relatively easy. It's on the foot, so we've got tight and thin skin with all of that bone underneath. Delicate style and a delicate needle choice, which means this equals a slow and accurate technique. We're going to lower our voltage and stroke so that we're not hitting the skin too frequently and doing too much damage to the skin. That will allow us to slow down and be a little bit more accurate in the skin. This thin skin with bone underneath, so I need a light pressure. The tightness of the skin means I don't need a big stretch, very minimal stretch. Maybe I'm just holding the skin to stop it from bouncing at all. As always, we're going to let the machine do the work. Because we've got thin skin with bone underneath, we don't need too much pressure. Very easy to go too deep and do damage, create a blowout. So that's why I said the lower voltage. The machine has to do the work. We don't want to put on too much pressure to force the ink into the skin. You're going to cause damage that way. You're going to think about changing the machine if you feel like you need to force it too much. And like I said, with the lower voltage and light pressure, if the machine is running too high, it's doing too much work. It might be doing too much damage, depositing too much ink. That's just not something that we want for thin skin with bone underneath it. So let the machine do the work also applies to bolder styles of work too. If we're doing a Japanese koi, using a 12 gauge 9-round liner, 12 gauge needles, so they're slightly thicker needles, and a 9-round liner means the configuration of the needles is 3 times the size of a 3-round liner. We're going to need a bit more voltage in order to power bigger needles. Like I said, we want to let the machine do the work, and to power bigger needles, we're going to have to turn that voltage up just a little bit so that the machine can work efficiently enough to be able to power the bigger needles. We're obviously going to be working on a stomach in this example. If you just experiment and take a look at the skin on yourself. Stomach skin is always stretchier because the way the body moves, the skin has to stretch more there. So we're dealing with stretchy layers of skin, tissue and muscle underneath the skin, plus a bolder style and a bolder needle choice. That equals a more solid and efficient technique, hence turning the voltage up. We're going to also turn the stroke up to help give us a bit more of a punch, which is going to make the tattooing a little bit more solid and efficient. If it was really soft and it wasn't very efficient on stretchy skin that is quite loose, we're going to probably overwork the skin and do too much damage. So that's why it's important to stabilize the skin and turn up the voltage and stroke to accommodate the skin so that we can work as efficiently as possible. That ties in with letting the machine do the work. If I felt like the machine wasn't doing enough work to power a 12 gauge 9-round liner on the stomach, then I would have to think about turning that voltage up, turning that stroke up, so that I don't have to put on more pressure, the machine is going to do the work and I can just guide it to do its job. So hopefully in those examples you can see how I've considered the needles, the voltage, the stroke, the hand speed and the stretch of the skin. When we're doing different styles, you can see how using these variables is going to break everything down and give us a system to be able to figure out a formula of what we need to do to approach every tattoo that we have planned. So if you're like I was at the beginning of my career, you're frustrated, you're kind of feeling anxious because you're being trusted to tattoo someone, but you don't have the mentorship and guidance that you want and that you need. So now that you've seen the variables, you've seen the system, and you understand what you need to learn in order to take you from being self-taught to a confident professional tattoo artist, the only thing that is left to do in between is spending months and years sticking with me, practicing, learning, and figuring out what step you need to take next in order to progress and be better. That system I've learned has taken me from being an apprentice, a self-taught tattoo apprentice, to winning awards, traveling, doing conventions, doing guest spots with people that I had always looked up to, feeling like I'm being recognized and acknowledged by people that never used to even know who I was. So now this is your opportunity to learn from my 5 tattoo variables, to learn from my system of tattooing. My 8-chapter course is there to take you and guide you every step of the way. You can do it at your own pace. You check in with me weekly. You're going to join my group calls. All of you guys that are in the course are going to get to join group calls so that we can learn together and check in and make sure that you're on the right track to achieving your goals and becoming a professional tattoo artist.